Hello listeners, this video will discuss the poem The Princess written by Alfred Tennyson. The poem is a seriocomic blank verse. It is a narrative poem. Seriocomic meaning it takes the genre of comedy drama, which means it combines the elements of comedy and drama. This poem is published in the year 1847. Tennyson was a poet laureate of the United Kingdom between 1850 to 1892, and he is one of the most popular English poets. Let us first see an overall picture of this poem. This poem narrates a story about a heroic princess who doesn't want to exist in the world of men, and when she is about to take up graduation from a university, she chose to study in a women's university because she believes that men are forbidden to even talk to her. The princess, when she was young, as an infant, she was betrothed to a prince from a neighboring city. When the prince come to know about the decision of this princess of moving to a women's university, he disguises along with his two friends and enters the women's college. As days pass, his disguise is discovered by the princess. Eventually, there's a battle between the princess and the prince's brother. In the battle, the prince gets wounded. Eventually, the princess returns the prince's love. She nurses him back to his health. Let us see the background story of why Tennyson chose to write this poem. Before Tennyson could plan to write this poem in the late 1830s, he had a discussion with his wife Emily Selwood, whom he married in the year 1850. In general, Tennyson is a person who wants to fight for women empowerment. During 19th century, people would not so easily pick up to write women-centric poems, women-centric works like novels or stories. Tennyson was criticized for not concentrating on the major issues that was going on in British culture. Soon after he wrote this poem, it was the time in 1847 the Queen's College was founded in London. This was the first British college for women. After that, in the year 1869 in Britain, there was a first university-level women's school, Girton College, Cambridge. All these developments for women's rights movement happened only after Tennyson wrote The Princess. Prior to Tennyson, there were other writers too who voiced for women. That is a famous Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote A Vindication of the Rights of Women in the year 1792. In her work, she advocated for the equality of men and women. Another writer from her period was John Stuart Mill. He argued for female emancipation. Let us see about this poem. This poem has a prologue and a conclusion. It is a long poem which has 7 parts. The prologue has an outer setting to the main narrative. The setting of the prologue takes place at a Victorian era summer fete. Fete meaning a celebration, a party. So in Britain, fetes are traditional public festivals which are organized outdoors to raise funds for a charity. And the characters in the prologue, they agreed to participate in a storytelling game which was about a heroic princess. So the heroic princess belongs to an ancient family. In the prologue, Sir Walter, he is a wealthy man who organizes the party on a summer day. There was a speaker who arrived from a college, from Sir Walter's son's college. The speaker's name is also Walter. Sir Walter shows the speaker his house with all his paintings and objects that he gathered from various places and times. And in the party, Sir Walter invites Aunt Elizabeth and Sister Lilia. The speaker reads a chronicle to the gathering. The chronicle was about a heroic woman. Listening to the chronicle, Sir Walter, he has no idea of where those kind of women exist. Aunt Elizabeth calls for a tale to the speaker that he should spin a story of himself. Sir Walter, hearing this, he says that Lelia must be a great princess in the story that the speaker narrates. The speaker also agrees to this, and he begins to say that the ladies in the gathering should add their own song when the narration needs a break. As I mentioned earlier, there are 7 cantos in this poem. This video discussion has the entire plot summary of this poem. The main narrative of the poem starts like this. A prince has been betrothed since his infancy to a princess called Ida. The princess is from a neighboring land, and years has passed. There were no communication between the prince and the princess. When the princess completed her schooling, she had grown to accomplish her graduate education. She looks beautiful. She had aversion towards men, so she founded a university of maidens in a remote place. Her father's name is King Gama. King Gama is so surprised to see his daughter refusing to even communicate with the world of men. She wants to be influenced with other women around her. There are 2 women who accompany this beautiful princess. They are Lady Blanche and Lady Psyche. And these 2 men, they have resolved never to wed a man. Knowing about the princess, the prince and his 2 friends, Cyril and Florian, they decide to infiltrate the university. Infiltrate meaning they enter into an institution secretly so that nobody can find out their disguise. So the prince enters inside the university in order to get attention from the princess. The 3 men, they disguise as women and they ride into the university asking to be enrolled as students. Moreover, Florian, who accompanies the prince, he is the brother of Lady Psyche, and Lady Psyche influences him by giving him hope. The new students, that is those 3 men who have just joined in the college, they are taken to see the princess. In the university, the princess and her accompanies, they always talk about the equality of men and women. Hearing this, the prince gets impressed by the princess and they debate the merits of women's equality to them. They also get along with the other university mates. They happen to listen and learn from the university. At one point, the tutors, Lady Psyche and Lady Blanche, they discover the men in disguise, but they never disclose this issue to anyone for their own reasons. When Ida and the prince talk together, the prince portraying himself as a women student, he tells her the news about the prince and his court, and they discuss the marriage contract between Ida and the prince when they were infants. The prince tells her how the prince loves her from far. Meantime, Ida speaks of her ideas of equality. In one instance, the prince touches hands with Ida on the path while they walk. When they boat to a picnic, Ida invites the prince to sing a song for her from her homeland. I am mentioning her because Ida thinks that it is a woman. The prince sings of love, but Ida mocks at his song because there was no equality in the song that he sings. Then she lectures about the inequality of love between men and women. Then she invites another song about the women of her land. At this time, Cyril sings a drunken travel song. So when he sings, chaos breaks out as the men's identity becomes obvious to everyone. In the confusion, Ida falls into the river and the prince saves her from drowning. The men flee from the location. Physique, who helped Cyril, she leaves her child behind in the castle. The princess captures the prince and Florian. Then letters arrive from the prince's father, the king, and Ida's father Gama. When Gama traveled to arrive to Ida's place, he was captured by the king. That is, he was kept in prison by the king. The king is the father of the prince. Now the king tells Ida not to harm the prince and he asks to free him, or else he says that the king's army will storm the castle. At this moment, the prince declares his love for Ida. Ida did not free the prince. The prince's father, the king, has arrived to storm the castle. Now Ida gives a stirring speech saying that she will lead the maidens into battle. And soon after, Ida appears to be having an interest in the prince. She also tries to build the marriage contract that was being built before years when they were infants. The prince and Florian are freed and they were pushed out of the castle. Ida catches Physique because Physique has betrayed her by helping those men to enter into the women's university. Meantime, the king wants to make a war, but the princess wants to win Ida's love. At this time, Gama and the prince, they had developed a warm relationship and Gama supports the prince, but Ida's brother support her. The prince and his friends offer to fight with Ida's brother and that would lead them into battle. And if the prince won the battle, then Ida would think whether she had to keep up the contract of marrying the prince. Ida's brother is Arak. Arak sends a word for his proposal to Ida. Her brother Arak also supports women, who's also into women's empowerment. Ida, she is confident of her brother's victory. She agrees to abide by the contest. Meantime, Ida was taking care of Psyche's child. And in the battle, Ida's brother defeat and wound the prince and his friends. Acknowledging the defeat, the prince pleads with Ida to let Psyche to reclaim her child. Then he falls into a coma. Ida, who is depressed of Psyche's betrayal, she doesn't want to forgive her. Ida then gradually changed her mind and showed willingness to bend her own laws. By lending to men, Ida feels happy and peaceful. She nurses the prince and love blossoms between her and the prince. When the prince regains consciousness at times, they discuss about their ideas of love and she discovers that they agree on the equality of love because prior when they had a conversation, the princess perceived of the inequality in love between men and women, but now she agrees that the prince had given a greater equality of love. The prince declares, "My hopes and thine are one," and asks her to place her trust in him. The story ends. In the conclusion part, the narrator reflects on how he had told a long story. The story is comic as well as dramatic in style. Writers have also adapted this story, that is, this poem, in their works, including Gilbert and Sullivan's Princess Ida, which is a comic opera in the year 1884. Hope this video helps. Keep subscribed to this channel to receive more updates. Thank you for listening.